to our Snap.
Welcome to our Snap. My name is Anthony Pago. Welcome back, guys. Today I have with me Brande Sanders and Lisa Delcol. These are people who live in Oklahoma City that I know from, well, I know you from hanging out on the porch at Mesta.
The infamous porch, yes.
Yeah, we've done lots of talks without microphones there. And I've just met you, but you're a good friend of Brande's, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and they're both parents and people who live in the city. Brande works for, she does mortgage loans, right? Mm-hmm. And then you do, you're going to have instructional
design, which is kind of a fancy way of saying that I create training. Right now I'm working on, mostly I do technical and safety training. Yeah.
Technical and safety training. Mm-hmm. So what does that look like?
Actually, it looks like a lot of stuff, man. I can talk to you about that all day long. So it can be e-learning. It can be instructor-led. It can be... It can look like a lot of different things. It can be something that I put together that we post up online and you read it yourself. It can be something that gets read to you. It can be interactive. It can be a whole bunch of different stuff. Yeah.
So you're a jack of all trades.
She's kind of a baller.
Jacket? What's the Jill?
Jacket?
You're a Jill of all trades?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and actually you have to be with instructional design anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go to school for that, I'm assuming?
I did not. I did not. In fact, there's a book. It's called The Accidental Instructional Designer. It's one of my touchstones. Because I came to it totally by accident. So my undergrad degree is just communications. Okay. And I've just parlayed that because instructional design, it takes into account writing. It takes into account project management, graphic design, script writing, project, just all kinds of stuff.
Everything. You're a hustler. You got to get that hustle on.
Maybe I am. Yeah, actually, you know what? And you do. You actually have to do wrangler. You know, they talk about herding cats. Man, when you're working with a bunch of subject matter experts and you've got to get everybody in the room and everybody on task and say, okay, here's what we're going to put into the training. Yeah, because now you got to do the analysis and figure out, okay, so what actually goes in here? Because a subject matter expert thinks everything should go in because everything is important. And it is.
So you are management material. Did somebody figure out that you had these skill sets before you did?
I think they kind of saw where I'm at now, but you know what? It just kind of creeps in. But yeah, really, it does. It does take management in addition to all the rest of it.
I'm going to apologize to everybody for the noise. We've got somebody renovating their boat next door, and we're in my garage as usual. So I will do my best to edit those noises out. But that noise right there, it's a little hard to edit out.
Yeah.
And it just happened about 2 minutes ago.
Right as soon as we started. Right. Yep.
Naturally.
What is the real estate business looking like right now?
It's looking pretty good. I mean, interest rates have gone up a little bit, but we're still in a reasonable low area. With all the urban core movement, there's a lot of renovations and revitalization.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
Get it in while the rates are a little lowish.
And before everybody figures out, it's really great to live in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I think that's the cat's out of the bag for that.
And cheap, yeah.
And then you guys are both parents. You ladies are both parents.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And tell me about, so it's interesting, both of you are parents of kids who are in the LGBT community, right? Mm-hmm. Which I guess puts you in that community as well. All of us should be.
Thank you for saying that.
We talked about that.
Yeah?
Because, there's a lot of buzzwords about how to be an ally, and we don't, and I might get a little backlash for this, but I don't feel like an ally. I feel like as a parent, I'm in the trenches and I'm in the community as well.
Yeah.
We see a need and we go for it. Mm-hmm. And you would like to think that every parent does what it takes to make sure their kids are happy and healthy, but that's not always the case. So. Yeah.
Can you? I don't want to get too personal, but can you give me any of the things you've had to deal with so far? I know they're young, right?
Well, my daughter just turned 19. She came out at 14. We were living in Luther, Oklahoma at the time.
Yeah.
She didn't get a lot of backlash as far as coming out. I think her peer group is, at the next level where there's a little bit more understanding and information out there than maybe some of the younger or the older generations.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a weird, I had some conversations with some extended family members that, compared her being gay to things that didn't really make sense. But
Yeah, I mean,
I don't have to go into all that. It was pretty graphic.
Older generation stuff, but there's still like newer. There's still kids today who are bigoted as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, she had a couple of bus rides that were uncomfortable, and again, they just kind of find their own. They kind of find their own group that we offer protection kind of thing.
Do you feel like that's you have to talk to your kids, right? So you communicate with them and tell them this is perfectly okay. These people are in the wrong, not you.
Right.
But the community thing, is that the best way to prepare the kids,
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction was to go find resources.
Yeah.
I got in touch with some friends that recommended a youth group, and my awkward, introverted child just blossomed, and she didn't miss a meeting.
Wow.
So yeah, there's things out there, and there's things out there for parents that may be struggling, or family members, or the LGBT person themselves. So there's things out there.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up PFLAG, but we have to state that this isn't we're sitting here talking to each other. This is not a direct, endorsement of any ideas under the flag or under the umbrella of PFLAG.
Yeah, we're not representing PFLAG.
We're not speaking for them, but you both work with PFLAG somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what PFLAG is.
So PFLAG, the acronym stands for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, but it also encompasses the transgender community as well. It's a national organization, and we belong to the Oklahoma City chapter. We're both on the board.
Oh, okay. So are there chapters in does UConn have a chapter?
UConn does, yeah. I think, and it's pretty new, isn't it?
Yeah,
UConn's
about a year,
chapter.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once a city gets to a certain size, then it's likely going to take on a chapter.
Well, it's up to the group to apply and become an official chapter. There's administrative stuff. I mean, it's like I said, it's a national. It's a respected organization.
Well organized.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do they focus on? Well, I mean, obviously, civil rights for everybody, for their core group. But
I think it's like education and advocacy.
Okay.
Right. So the LGBT community certainly needs support and advocacy.
Yeah.
But so do parents and friends, right? So that's hence the name.
Okay.
Parents and Friends of. If you were to go to the website, if you're to go to pflag.org, and I will give that a shout out because they've got some fabulous resources there. So
yeah, we'll throw a link in.
Yeah. So there, I've pulled stuff down to give to family members because if you're just kind of new on the journey, my story's similar to Brandy's. My kid came out at 14 as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and but there's a whole different language around a lot of these things, and the language keeps evolving. Language evolves anyway, but in the LGBT community, it evolves pretty rapidly. Wow. And so things that used to mean one thing means something else, or now has a different connotation, or now it's a pejorative. Or
we're getting ready to blow your mind is what she's saying.
So is this like slang, how they just communicate day to day, but with their experiences that are a little that need alternate descriptions? Because
there's some of that, but the science is also changing, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so it used to be considered a mental illness. So there would be a mental health diagnosis. And so it's not, so we now recognize, science now recognizes that this is not a mental health issue to be gay or to be transgender.
Yeah.
Now here's where the language part comes in. It could, if you're struggling, there's something called gender dysphoria.
Okay.
Now that is a mental health issue that you do need to deal with, because now the fact that you're, and this is essentially mainly I think a transgender issue. So if your physiology doesn't match your gender identity,
mm-hmm.
all this language, that's gender dysphoria.
Okay.
And that's distressing, and that's painful. And sometimes you do need some help working through that.
Sure.
So anyway, that's where all those resources come in,
mm-hmm.
and that's where I think that they're really, really important, because I remember when my kid came out, I'm a pretty liberal person, and when they started talking about asexuality and non-binary,
mm-hmm.
is my child identifies as non-binary,
right? Which
means that they don't identify as either male or female.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm like, okay, this makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
You're one or the other, right? You're really not. Gender's a spectrum.
Sure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And it's not something that everybody is familiar with.
No, I just learned, as a Native American, I would like to think I'm up on all of the Native American stuff, but I only found out through studying the LGBT community, movement, that Native Americans have a history of having more than two sexes. Like, they recognized
the two-spirit.
Yeah. That's interesting to me, but I had nobody in high school sit me down during sex ed or during, biology or whatever, no social sciences, nothing, where they were like, this is going to occur in life, you're going to meet these people. So I can see where people in Oklahoma got the lack of an education to encourage the bigoted kind of mindset where you go like, I'm not saying you were a bigot, I'm just saying you were uninformed,
Uninformed.
And it can lead to bigoted ideals if you carry away, with like hating that person because you don't understand them, right?
Well, it's the fear of the other.
Yeah.
Right? And it's funny because none of this is new.
Right.
None of this is new. All of this stuff has existed as long as humanity has existed.
Yeah.
Right? But we've just kind of we put ourselves, it's really funny the parallels if you think about it between gender identity, like the whole LGBT community thing, and you look at politics, right? We like to put things in boxes.
Yeah.
And so we put things in a male or a female box, and that's it. You got these two boxes, and that's all you got.
Right.
But then the people in the middle, or totally off the spectrum, are thinking, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? And so for generations now, as long as we've had like just this male-female understanding or what we've accepted,
right?
People grow up not knowing about this, like you say.
Yeah.
And so now, I think this is part of our education piece is telling people, hey,
well,
this
right.
is out there.
I mean, I've always been an ally and supportive, and until Maddie's, my daughter Maddie, until she started going to groups and she'd come back and she would share, her experiences and the stories. I didn't know about non-binary. I knew about transgender. I didn't know about non-binary. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. Exactly. Or the fact
that uninformed.
Or the fact that there's a spectrum, or the fact that your gender identity can morph, it can change.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of people, I don't think that we have a good handle on what the numbers are. There are a lot of people that, they're heterosexual and they are their whole lives, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But then there are people who, identify as heterosexual and that's how they live their lives, and then, they hit a point in their life and they're like, wait a minute, this isn't feeling quite right. Or now I think there's this, and there's a whole other side to themselves that they weren't aware of.
Right. I think what makes that harder is, the LGBT community, I'm probably mixing up statistics here. Like the country consists only of 3% of the country identifies or self-identifies. I think it's a low number. It might not be that low.
Is LGBT?
Yeah. It couldn't be that low.
I thought it was like 10%.
Is it 10%?
10%?
But this is what I'm saying. I don't know that we
know.
we
need to look into that. We can throw down some
actually
studies.
But
if you're doing
on it.
Yeah, if you do non-binary note, though, that's got to be like a much lower number. And scientific studies, which, that's how we pass legislation and stuff. People showing, there's clear discrimination because we've had researchers, show they've interviewed people or whatever, whatever their trial consists of. But you have to have a large sample number. You have to have 1,000 people, 1,000 cases for it to be science.
And you have to have people who are not afraid to self-identify.
Right. Or even understand what that means.
Right. And that was the thing. That was I learned so much through my kid. And one of the things that I didn't know, I didn't know that they were struggling with this. This wasn't something that we talked about.
How did you find out?
They finally came to me to tell me. But I remember when my kids were, because my kid I have twins. And so I remember in sixth grade or something, they came home and said, the kids at school are saying so-and-so's a fag. What's that? Like, okay, we're going to have a discussion about, we're going to talk about language. Yeah. All right. And we're going to talk about why we're not going to use, hurtful language. And B, we're going to talk about the fact that there is nothing wrong with being gay if somebody is. And C, we're going to talk about the fact that, I guess I did know a little bit back then, but we're going to talk about the fact that this kid may or may not be, this kid may not know. And here's the deal. I remember telling my kids this. They have no recollection of this conversation. It is like one of my best parenting moments ever. Dang it. But I also remember saying to them, you also have to understand that there are probably other kids in your school, in your class, in your grade that either are or are struggling with it and they don't know, and we're not going to label people, we're not going to out people,
right,
and we're not going to insult people.
Right.
Right? We're going to try and, because now you start using that language, and those kids goes back to the fear of, how can we ever get accurate numbers if people are afraid to come out and self-identify?
Right.
Those kids hear people talking this way about this other kid, they're not going to say a thing. They don't want to lose their friends.
Yeah.
So I was trying to teach my kids this at the age of like 10 or 11.
Wow.
But I didn't know that my kid was kind of struggling with this. I don't think my kid really knew either. Because we used to fight about long hair and stuff like this. And I remember after they came out, I said, so what was the deal with the long hair? If you don't identify as a girl, what was that? And do you know what they said to me? And it really broke my heart. They said, I just thought that's how you had to be a girl, and I thought I sucked at being a girl.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, because we have these hard and fast ways
preconceived notions.
This is what a man looks like. This is what a woman looks like. A girl has long hair. You know?
Yeah. And I can't help but wonder what kind of conversations go on when kids come home from school and have conversations about their day at school.
Yeah.
One of the goals for me is to develop a way to go into schools and have a conversation about, the anti-bullying restrictions and policies. How much does that overflow into the LGBT community?
Right.
Obviously you shouldn't bully anybody, but do they specify like this is a form of bullying as well?
Right. I am not a fan of, and I don't know if you at all were touching on any of this, but I'm not a fan of the zero tolerance rules, regulations, where they say if somebody's fighting, well, they're both, especially if it gets physical. If it's physical, they both get kicked out. It seems like a really good way to if you're a bully, something's wrong already, and you're already ready to take the punishment, right? That's part of the crying out for help.
Right.
You're dragging somebody down with you, and to me, that's not at all fair. That's something that we need to investigate. If we're going to protect this class that needs protecting, this is a group of people who already are at risk for suicide, depression, being bullied constantly as young kids, as adults, all of that.
Yeah.
I think we need to investigate, how the rules affect them in that way.
Well, and it's great that you bring that up, though, because I just heard something. I heard a story on NPR just this week about schools in Oklahoma, and they're now looking at bullies.
Wow.
And what is exactly what you guys are just talking about here. What makes this kid behave this way? Why is this kid acting out? So so what they're trying to do now is educate their teachers and their faculty. So instead of saying, "Hey, kid, go stand," whatever the punishment is, pull the kid aside and say, "So, what's going on with you?
Is there something else going on?"
So, yeah, you're right on point. And that actually kind of made me feel a little more hopeful. I think they talked to somebody in Moore or something like that. So I don't know if this also applies to the Oklahoma City public school system.
Mm-hmm.
I would kind of hope that it does. But I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, I'd love to, I don't have kids. I have plenty of friends who are involved in the LGBT community. And I think people who watch my social media know that I'm an advocate, that I spend a lot of my time doing that in politics, and that's pretty much that in science, Mm-hmm. I would like to see Oklahoma tackle that in a way that, we got Bernie Sanders on the ticket, or we all voted for Bernie Sanders, and we, passed, medical marijuana, and we did some prison reform that not a lot of states have done yet. We've been leading the way in weird ways that I never expected. Oklahoma has done some fairly progressive, for Oklahoma, some extremely progressive things lately. Mm-hmm. I would love to see us tackle, kind of the bully thing. We've got another story down south. We'll talk about that in a minute. Where did this happen? There's an awful ordeal that happened down south in Oklahoma.
Oh, in Ashley.
Where in Ashley?
Actually.
Actually?
Yeah.
So
Actually?
where is this? Is this along the I-35 corridor in the south end?
I don't know exactly. I know it's close to the Texas border.
Yeah.
The family they've since left.
Okay, so we've got a really big thing we're going to talk about here in a minute. We're going to take a quick break to get the camera reset and all that good stuff. We will chat on the porch and come back. You are listening to Artless Nap with, Jesus Christ, with Brande and Lisa. Welcome back to Artless Nap. My name is still Anthony Pago. I don't know if I introduced myself in the beginning of this podcast, but
I think you did.
I don't remember.
yeah, we'll figure it out. We've got Brande and we've got Lisa. Brande Sanders and Lisa Delcol. Oh, I almost had it. I did a mnemonic device. I pictured Lisa Simpson making phone calls at Dell Center down here. I'll get it.
You would look great with blue hair, by the way.
Thank you. We'll give it a try sometime. Yeah.
Well, we'll go to a darker topic. So I'll just give my little, like, how I came about this. I was on Facebook, as we all do, not all of us, but as a lot of us do, and I see everybody blowing up sharing these screenshots from some bullying, and that's the text in front is, some of them are just cursing, I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. Some of them kind of explain the situation. So down south, along the Texas border in Oklahoma, there was a smaller school, and there was a trans kid who I guess was born as a male and identifies as a female.
Right. So you're talking about a transgender girl.
Transgender girl, okay. And was being, how old do you think?
I think she was 12.
And was being actively bullied, like not just by the kids.
No, the scary thing is it was parents. That's it. This was not kids bullying. The stuff that blew up was posts by parents.
And it was on Facebook. They were posting
on Facebook. It was a closed group for the parents of that school.
Okay. And what types of, I'm going to turn off this fan. If you can explain to the people, like, what were the posts about? What were they saying?
They were actually basically, so when the parents found out that this transgender girl was using the bathroom for the girl's bathroom rather than the faculty bathroom that she had been using in primary school or lower school, whatever it was. So she had transitioned to middle school, but didn't have the lay of the land yet. So on the first day of school, this kid had to go to the bathroom, so she went to the girls' room.
Yeah.
And people just freaked out because she went to the girls' room rather than the faculty bathroom because she didn't know where it was in this new building. And so, but the posts from the parents were horrible. They weren't just they were hateful. There was, there
was threatening violence.
But that was the scarier part.
In my opinion, it was criminal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the parents said, "You need to send your kid to beat the crap out of this kid. That'll teach them a lesson."
Right.
And the other, and somebody else said, "Well, yeah, a good sharp knife will just take care of that."
That's where I came into it. I saw that post and I was like, okay, this is something different. This is not a normal.
It was awful.
Yeah. I hate to do this, but do you feel like those parents felt like it was okay in a closed group because it's Trump's America, or because this has grown to be this way over a steady period of time?
I think it's definitely a factor. I don't think it's see, here's the thing. I don't think Trump is the problem. I think Trump is the symptom.
Right. I think
Trump has made it okay.
Yeah.
To do this openly, and plus it's a closed group, right?
Well,
and everything online, you're feeling anonymous.
Also
right.
It's not just I'm in closed groups, of people that I don't know.
Yeah.
All these people know each other.
Right.
Right. It's not just a group that likes pastel painting and they talk about it.
Yeah.
These are parents in this school system and in this surrounding area. They probably see each other at the grocery store. They go to potlucks. They go to church together. They go, These were people that knew each other.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do believe that there was probably a comfort level. And there was that one person who was like, no, this isn't cool. Like, I'm going to blow this shit up.
Right.
Can I say shit?
No, you can say whatever
Okay.
you want. Yeah. Fuck those parents, first of all.
Yes.
But I feel like if you have to, like, if there's a part of your brain that says, and I don't know if these parents had that part of their brain activated, that says, like, maybe I shouldn't post this on a public forum. If you think that it's okay only because it's on a closed forum, you probably need to analyze what the hell you're saying in the first place. If you have to hide what you're saying, if it has to be in a closed group and it's a place for hate,
but that wasn't the purpose of the group, though.
Okay.
The purpose of that group was school activities.
Okay.
It was hey, we're all parents at the same school. We need a Facebook group.
Right.
But what happened was this incident happened, and it was a closed group. I don't know. I don't know these parents. I can't say why they felt it was okay to say this.
Yeah.
But the thing that I find disturbing is the fact that they were openly advocating violence
Yeah.
and hatred
Of a child.
of any type, but especially a child. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be like a community support space, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's not community. That's divisive. That's tearing somebody down. That's illegal. First of all, that should be criminal. So no charges were brought that we know of?
No charges. Nobody suffered anything.
Well,
except that kid.
You did something about it, though. What did you do?
I reacted. I mean, as a parent of a transgender kid, I was that triggered those fears that I had when my kid came out. When my kid came out to me, yeah, absolutely. I was like Brandi, I wanted resources, but the other just as strong feeling was, oh my God, I'm just afraid that my kid's going to get hurt. It was fear. It was fear. And so this was realized, and now we haven't experienced this, but I could really, really empathize. I thought, oh my God, as a parent, I would be terrified. Yeah. I mean, that kid didn't go back to school.
Right.
And so the other thing that I drew on was when my kid was supposed to start high school. They had been homeschooled for 8th grade, and it was during this time that they figured out they were coming to terms with and figuring out and being able to give a name to their gender identity and the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And they were scared. Yeah. They were afraid to go to school. So what I did for my kid is I made an appointment with the principal, the guidance counselor, and our family, and we went in and we talked. Yeah. And before school started, and I said, okay, here's my kid, here's our situation. I just want to talk about the culture of the school. I want to know that faculty's on board. And then when the principal asked, so what do you need from me? I said, basically leadership. I need you to lead by example. I need to know that you got my kids back. I need to know that you're going to tell your faculty and staff and everybody, we're not here to, change your religion, your beliefs, or whatever. Right. But you will respect this child. Right.
You're not asking them to change their curriculum and fire teachers.
No, I wasn't. No, but you will respect my child as a human being. Right. And they were fabulous. Let me say that this school was wonderful. But man, I could feel for those parents. Yeah. Because even now it's 4 years later. Right. And if my kid's going into a different community, you gotta know that's in the back of my mind. My kid's looking at colleges. And this is a conversation that we've had. And I've said to them, okay, so we're going to talk about, what you want to study, what's tuition, all the rest of that stuff. I said, but let's also look at the community that you're going into. Right. And let's make sure that you've got affirming support around you. Affirming. That's more language that people need to learn. So we need to know that, safety is a deal, but so is healthcare. Yeah. This is another thing. This is another thing that the community faces.
Right. There aren't doctors who are familiar with the medical needs of especially gender transitioning individuals.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
there are doctors now, but there's a general lack of doctors general practitioners.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's hard to just go to your family's general practitioner and expect that they have knowledge on the hormone therapy or just the mental the support.
Well, and it all exactly, because it all goes hand in hand. And even if they don't know, I'm going to give another shout out. I won't name her, but I mean our family doctor was phenomenal, because we're still going to the doctor. So we've probably been going to her 7-8 years. So she was our doctor before my kid came out, and then my kid came out, and at that meeting too, she actually said, okay, so I don't know a lot about this, so talk to me. Wow. Give me the language. Oh, she's phenomenal. She said, okay, I'm going to have to do a little bit of research and stuff. She said, but she told us, this doesn't change how I feel about you, doesn't change how I'm going to treat you. Now, you need to be open and honest with me so that I can do the best that I can. I need accurate information. Right. And she said, and by the way, for the rest of your life, you need to be open with your healthcare provider.
Nice.
Which is true.
No, totally.
But this goes back to, we need to make sure that you're in an affirming community where you can find that type of healthcare.
That's
and you're
right.
not going to, because this is a real thing.
That's right.
If you think about how vulnerable you are when you go to the doctor.
Oh,
right?
Of course. Come on. And they make you more vulnerable by making you show up on time, and they make you wait 45 minutes.
Well, then there's that.
And then you have to wear this paper thin gown.
Exactly right. And so at your
30
most
degrees
vulnerable,
in there.
You've got to disclose this stuff.
Right.
And you've got to hope that person is going to be on board with you.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Right?
And you never know. In places like Oklahoma, and that's not Oklahoma. That's world round. I mean, there are just
all over the place.
People who don't understand. And we talked earlier about lack of education being a primary factor. But I want to touch base on, you wrote a letter, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so there was an open letter that you wrote.
Yeah.
What was the language you used in this? How did you try to get your point across?
It's a lot of the same stuff. In fact, I was probably channeling that meeting that I had with the principal at our school. So what I did was basically say, and it was an open letter to the administration of that school and I said, here's what I expect from you. As a parent, as a human being, you are leaders in this community. You need to stand up and you need to say, this is wrong, this is not acceptable in our community, here are the consequences for it, and we got your back.
Wow.
I told you Lisa was really shy.
Yeah, she's not fiery at all. Are you kidding me? Yeah, this is an artless nap. This is artless. Wake the fuck up.
Right?
Hey, this is don't mess with my kid.
Yeah.
I think we just need t-shirts to say that, but, you know.
To mess with my kid?
Don't. Or we could do, let's mess with Pago.
Yeah, I think that would sell better, at least from the people who listen to my podcast.
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter how many times I talk about this. It's still. I mean, and you know what? And it's not just LGBT parents, right, Brady? Like I think any parent, you come after my kid. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Right. So I think I could put myself in their shoes. I don't know absolutely everything about their life. I can't speak. I'm not speaking for them.
Yeah.
But as a member of the community and as a parent who has an interest in kids in general, but also education, here is what you need to do as a leader in the education community.
Sure.
You need to stand up.
Outside of the people who are our leaders, because they have a lot of tasks and limited funds to do it. You talked a bit about that outside of the charter schools, and public schools certainly have a lack of funds and stuff. We can't ask them to build a little community. It would be nice if they could build a community center, like specifically for social, or just opening up communication, dialogue between the students, the parents, the the administration, all of that good stuff. We don't have the option to feed funds through schools to develop the centers. How can we tackle this in communities? Like, what do you have any ideas? More coffee shops? Should coffee shops, make it clear that they're a safe space for communication? Like, how do we get people to come together and communicate and talk about these things?
That's the word, is communicate. It's the two words we were talking about earlier on break. Communicate and respect.
Yeah.
And understand that, like I said before, I'm not trying to change your mind about anything, but you need to understand where I'm coming from. I understand where you're coming from, and we respect each other as human beings.
Yeah.
Education is the other big deal. So it would be nice to think that we could put out this public education program and everybody would just jump on board.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
But we have an opportunity, and I think Brande and I have a unique opportunity too to talk to educators and other parents to say, okay, so here's what we've learned. Here's our experience. By the way, and I mean, I will show pictures of my kids all day long and say, look at this kid. Look how fabulous this kid is. Here's
they
what
are
this
pretty
kid,
fabulous. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
I believe you.
You know, when you meet people, the great thing that I appreciate about her child is I like to just sit and have conversations with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they're not a kid. They're a person that is developing into this fabulous being that you get to witness. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy hanging out with them. I mean, I do. Both of your kids.
Yeah. Wow.
So you're telling me that people in the LGBT community are not like, little devils, little Satan's little, souls trying to steal your mana and encourage you to.
Well, there
sit
might
down
be
the dark
some,
path.
just like anywhere.
Yeah.
But
and I was just going to say, so I mean, but that's another great point that you bring up though, because you think about any group that is, we talk about racial profiling and we talk about discrimination and all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah.
And what you hear from people in any community that you talk about, they say, look, we're not a monolith. We're not all the same. We're individual people. It's the same thing in the LGBTQ community, right? It's not all gay men are not like this, or all lesbians are not this, or all transgender people. My God, I mean, when I think about the people that come to our support groups, I mean, it's a wide spectrum, and I mean, it's not like you would know them walking down the street. Oh, hey, there's a transgender.
Right.
They're just people, right?
Yeah.
And if we could just get to that point, and so there's my utopia, is we just treat each other like people and say, oh, So you're transgender. Okay, cool. What's your pronouns? And then you move on, and let me just talk to you as a person.
So, for anybody who's listening that isn't, and I certainly could use all the knowledge I can get, explain the pronouns thing as clearly and as concisely as you can. So,
Okay.
how do you reference he, she? Is there a they for non-binary? Like
There is actually.
There's a they?
Well, yes, there is a they, and that's my kid, and that's
Wow.
that's when we were talking earlier. Brande was using the correct pronouns, and I was going to jump in and say, oh yeah, by the way, my kid uses they them pronouns.
Oh.
At our support meetings, in fact, we have our little name tags. We like your first name and your pronouns. It's okay to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
It's okay to just ask if you're not sure. Like Brande was talking about earlier, just say, oh, okay, and so what are your pronouns? And they're going to be thrilled.
That
whoever
question
it is.
alone, like, is not a question I've heard said out loud, though, like something that I need to investigate, and I will. But, like, I need that phrase, what are your pronouns?
Yeah.
That's something that maybe a shirt needs to be made once in a while, just to kind of remind
We have
people.
a button. Actually, there's
yeah?
a button that says my pronouns are not optional.
Oh, nice.
Because people will just, oh, well, they're not in front of me, I don't have to use them. Well, yeah, you kind of do.
You could go old 80s politician style. It says, ask me about my pronouns. or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
That's-
I like that.
Yeah.
And then you get to have a dialogue.
Well, on our break,
That's a great
I went
idea.
to a wedding and I was introduced to somebody and they corrected and said I'm the sibling instead of I'm the brother or the sister, and so that kind of lit that fire up, and I said, oh, so what's your preferred pronouns? And they, the face just lit up, and they're, thank you for asking my pronoun is they
Wow.
them.
That's great.
So now I have done that before to somebody that I thought might need that question asked, and they're like, well, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what does that mean?
But there's an opportunity to educate.
But there's an
Yeah.
again, that kind of leads into, well, this is why I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets confusing, and we make mistakes sometimes. The best thing to do is just to go, oh yeah, you're right, they, and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
And that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a shift in your mindset. And it's a difference in habits. I
Yeah.
mean, remember, okay, so for 14 years, I was calling this kid she.
Yeah.
That was a tough habit to break. I'm not going to say that I was perfect. I am no, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, but even now. So if I'm thinking about my kid as a toddler, that was she at that
Right.
point. So sometimes I slip, but like Brande just said, they.
Yeah.
And now to me, they is just natural. If you were to use the she pronoun, no, that doesn't sound right about that kid.
Right, but that's interesting that you point out that you're clearly not somebody who's admonishing your kid, who's spanking them, who's sticking them in a closet until they come out and tell you what clothes they're going to wear and how they're going to be called and stuff, and yet you still had some cognitive dissonance from your previous memories compared to now, and
That's a great term.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that other people who struggle with religious ideals and stuff, they already have some cognitive dissonance built in. They should know that even, I'm not going to call you the most liberal person because I don't know you well enough yet to call you that, but I can certainly say that you're not on the far conservative spectrum.
No,
so
that's a safe call.
So to see somebody who seems like they're open-minded constantly, also struggle with some of this, I think would be a little reaffirming for somebody else with struggles. So that's why communication and having community is important in this, I guess. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I use the example all the time. My kids have always known that I was affirming and an ally, and I knew Maddie was gay when she was like probably kindergarten.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And she still struggled about coming out. She still hesitated. I still kind of had to have those conversations. You can tell me anything, right? I love you more no matter what. Mm-hmm. And she still struggled with it.
Yeah.
So, if you're going into something and you're not going to get that support, or you're going to get that demonizing reaction, I can't imagine.
No.
So I think you're right. I think it's probably a little of a relief to know that everybody, it's still a process, it's still a journey, and you're going to slip, and you're going to change your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay.
Now, I did learn about this a little bit younger. No, it's fine. It's still recording. We're still going. You're still with us here on Artless Nap. I didn't know about this until I was in I think, and this is pretty early for some of my friends are still people who don't know much about any of this and are kind of offensive with their language and stuff. But I was kind of taken in by the LGBT community as a young man, and I appreciated them and they appreciated me, and we learned together. I did learn that you can take away somebody's coming out, and it's almost like taking away somebody's like marriage announcement or like.
Oh, and it can be worse than that. You're talking about outing somebody?
Yeah, well, I know outing somebody in a hateful way is dramatically horrible. Yeah, but you can even like within a healthy relationship with good support, you can just fuck up as a parent and say, you know, I told all your aunts and uncles, and they'll go I wanted to do that. You know, it can be a positive, like beautiful party type thing, and you can just like rob them of their, like taking a hold of their own identity.
They come out every day.
Yeah.
Every day they have to, you know, they have to come out in some aspect. So yeah, that's a tough slippery slope because it's not my job. It's not my story.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's a fantastic point. That's a fantastic point because we had that conversation multiple times actually with my kid, because I did it for them with certain family members.
Yeah.
Because they were just afraid of it.
Sure.
And I said, okay, fine, cool. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. Let's talk about what you want me to say. What's the language you want me to use? Da da da.
Yeah.
And that just kind of opened the door, and then they can have the conversations directly after that. But that's a really good point.
And it also comes back to, you know, just being people. I don't introduce Lisa as, oh, Lisa, that's my straight friend.
Right.
We don't do that as straight people.
Right.
Why would I do, oh, that's my gay friend, Bobby.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Bobby's not gay, by the way. I just made that up. I didn't out anybody by accident.
Well, I'm just thinking now, like maybe I should stop introducing, because I do introduce some of my friends. I'm like, this is one of my crazier friends, and like I might need to back off of the whole like this is my nutty friend. They're gonna end up like, you know, swinging off of the.
You might need to give somebody some warning, though.
Yeah, but that's something that I've kind of made a mental note to not do that because.
Yeah. Well, crazy is different. Like if you say somebody's gay, it's not like all of a sudden they're going to be uncontrolled in their sexual urges and destroy your life with their.
But that's a big stereotype.
Yeah. Like, if there's a gay man in front of me, he obviously wants to fuck me, and I should be offended, you know?
Yeah.
Don't look at me. Like, well, man, they're not sexualizing you. Like, I'm sorry, I know you want them to be sexual.
Actually, somebody was saying, like, you're just not that good looking. I just do not know.
I'm not feeling it,
don't flatter yourself.
Yeah.
That's what Wes was saying. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't flatter yourself.
No, I've never understood the whole, like,
you know, I'm not attracted to every straight person.
Right.
There you go.
I'm not attracted to every man, like...
Absolutely.
I mean, most of the time, but not all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have control of my libido, and my prefrontal cortex is functioning somewhat, so I can make choices on my own, usually.
Yeah.
What has been the hardest part about being the parent outside of the relation? Your kids are everything, right? You want to protect your kids, you want them to be healthy, and you worry about all of that. Let's remove, and I know you can't, but let's pretend we can remove the kids from the whole thing. What's the hardest part about communicating in the modern day and age with people about this stuff? What has been the hardest? Like, have there been people who just like refuse to, you know, communicate at all? Do they throw you hateful stuff? Like, what's the hurdle that you are finding the hardest to get over right now? Opening up the dialogue, finding people to talk to?
That's part of it too, because here's the thing. So the LGBT members come out, but so do the families, right? And so I can't imagine what it's like to reveal that personally about myself if I was gay or trans or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do know that as a parent, I know that at work, when I'm having that conversation, because you do these, you know, getting to know you. Hey, you know, just met you. Hey, you have any kids? Oh, yeah, I have. I may not tell you I have twins.
Right.
I may tell you I have 2 kids. Because if I tell you I have twins, but I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you think, your next question is what? Boy or girl?
Right.
One of each? What do you have?
Right.
Well, I used to be able to say, yeah, I have one of each. But if I don't know how you're going to be about this, I'll just say, yeah, I got a couple of kids. And
so you have to avoid the twin thing to avoid going into the gender description and potentially discrimination.
If I'm, well,
you got to vet them a little bit first, right?
I have to vet them a little bit first, because if I'm not sure how you're going to take this, then I may not want to reveal that about my kid.
Right.
But sometimes I do take it. Actually, I'm thinking about somebody that I did at work, and I know that this person is a little bit more, I know that they're pretty conservative. I'll use gender-neutral pronouns. Just to not identify anybody. But I remember having this conversation, and it came to that, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a chance right here. And I just said, okay, well, so, I've got a son, and I've got, my other kid is transgender. And he kind of, like, physically started.
Wow.
And I went, right? I said, imagine when they came out to me. I said, yeah, imagine my surprise when I first heard that. Like, just kind of, and he went, oh. And so we were able to have a little bit of a conversation, and I like to let people know, it's okay to be surprised.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to not know. My teammates, the people that I work with, were fabulous.
Nice.
They were fabulous. We're not all on the same political spectrum, but their first thought was, and they knew this kid as a girl.
Yeah.
So,
they were
it's a
also
process for them
surprised.
too,
Yeah.
they were surprised. It is a process, and there are some of them are like, oh, I just can't get it, and some of them just don't want to. Flat out, it's too hard to try to use, the gender neutral pronouns. It's not grammatically correct, which actually is kind of a bullshit argument.
It is.
But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
If you're talking about language, and some of them just they just don't want to. But I gotta say, the people that I work with closely on a day-to-day basis, I mean, they've been, they would just ask questions.
Yeah.
But they also have a little bit of, I don't know, not stake in your life, but they have relevance. So that may be the difference. This person didn't have a stake in your life just yet.
Right.
New people. So
Well, and you know what I think too, though, is once somebody knows you, and you've got a good rapport with that person, you've got some respect there. You've got a little bit.
Goes back to respect.
You've got a little bit of leverage, and so if I can't, and I use that
Good.
with people that I know are kind of conservative, but I know that we've got a good working relationship, and so when it's appropriate, if it's appropriate, I will, I'll disclose that, because I'm thinking that we've been working together for a couple of years. I've done good work for them. They respect the work that I do. They, as far as I know, I'm a normal person, right?
do you catch yourself using they, them, just generally a little more? I catch myself doing that a little bit just to make it easier.
Sure.
Like if I'm referring to someone, like, they.
I think it's
but you know
growth.
what? We do that anyway. Shakespeare freaking did it.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Shakespeare did it. This is nothing new.
Yeah, well, I wanted to make a joke earlier, but I didn't know how soon into the podcast I could make a joke, because some of this is
let's do some
pretty
jokes.
serious shit. Well, I just, and I hadn't framed the joke entirely in my head, but I'm just picturing in my head. So, have you seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
No.
It's amazing. It's about it's a Shakespearean play, and they're taking like two of the side characters, and they just show their perspective through the whole, play being acted out as if it was real life or whatever. But they are actors in a caravan, or rather, there are actors in a caravan who are playing out some of the Shakespearean, play, and that was pretty common back then. That's what Shakespeare's plays were for like the actors to like load up a caravan, travel around like your band, your band going around playing in Seattle
The Shakespeare
and
rock band.
Dallas and
Yeah.
stuff. But like back then, it was men dressing up as women, right? And so I'm just picturing like
Will of Fair.
they certainly didn't park these migratory actors, because actors weren't beheld as like the most important people in the world. They were kind of the dregs of society.
Yeah, they weren't very respectable.
I'm just imagining that like the dudes dressed up in drag, like trans type of stuff, and some of them probably were trans or gay or whatever. They had higher voices and more feminine looking. Those are the ones who would be cast, who wanted it or whatever, who did well at it. I just imagine them like hiking up their skirt and peeing in a trough, and then being told by the locals like, that's a straight only tree. You have to, or you're peeing in the men's tree and you need to go to the women's tree, or like the opposite. You can't pee on the women's tree. You have to go to the men's tree. So yeah, I hashed out the joke a little bit there. That's my one Shakespearean LGBTQ
So
trans
I feel
joke.
like we just need to. I think we need to let's do a caravan and let's do this.
Yeah, you want to enlighten the world by
Yes.
taking
Yes, I
Shakespeare on the
do.
road?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
That sounds like a good time to me, actually. I would love to do that.
I would totally do that.
Instead of following the dead or paying for Coachella tickets, I will certainly do this.
There you go.
Yes.
Do you guys have a favorite Shakespearean play or movie, a modern interpretation, or anything like that?
Favorite.
I like the Witches and Macbeth. Does that count?
Yep, that
I
certainly.
like Macbeth. I like Hamlet. You know what? I love Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. I really do.
Yeah.
I do. But I mean, I'm not a Shakespeare aficionado. I mean,
Right.
I've seen a bunch, but I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself an expert. But I do like Hamlet. I do, because you know what, it sparks all these conversations. The whole how Ophelia's a really good character though to be looking at. The more we learn,
Which tree would they use?
Not the tree. Ophelia? Oh, she'd use the woman's tree.
Yeah.
But
Or would she? You don't know her life.
based on what Shakespeare told us.
She was pretty messed up, though.
She was pretty messed up, but she was pretty into Hamlet. But did she do that because she had to conform to social norms?
Right.
I don't know.
Here we go.
We're getting real freaking deep right
This
now.
is right now we're spitballing, and we can throw in a new interpretation of Shakespeare based on these like ideals. We're like, was she even in love with Hamlet? You know, was she just pretending to be in love with Hamlet to the most excess because she believed she saw her mom, who was
and that's what she needed to do to be a proper woman at that time.
And then she went crazy, but maybe she really wanted to go to the loony bin to get out of societal norms and kind of. You know, she didn't know what else to do. It was.
So would you introduce
Kleiner.
Ophelia as your crazy friend?
Would I claim her as? Would I call her my crazy friend?
Would you refer? Hey, this is Ophelia. My crazy friend.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be introducing her to anybody. I'd be hanging out with her. I'd be like, it's fine. Forget all these people. We'd be going. We'd be in the middle. We'd be peeing on all the trees.
Yes.
Women don't like to pee on trees.
No, I imagine not.
Have you seen that? There's a mechanism that because here. Let's talk about penis envy just for let's talk about penis envy just for a quick second.
Okay.
No, you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's to help.
You can get penis envy on Amazon?
I mean, you probably can.
By shopping too much. This is a disclaimer.
Sorry.
But yeah, there's this mechanism that you can buy that assists women in peeing while standing up.
I've seen these.
I'm going to add that to my wish list.
No, I've heard that certain products are kind of leaky. I would read the reviews.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to dribble.
It's terrible, especially if you're. I would imagine if you're standing up, it's just going to go all the way down into your shoe.
Okay, I'm thinking
Probably.
Bass Pro ought to have this.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, because like
There
you're out
you
there,
go.
like
Check that out.
There are women who love to hunt and stuff.
So let's pride our asses out, and then we'll go into Bass Pro Shop and buy this. In Oklahoma City.
Well,
on a Sunday.
On a Sunday.
This is why we're
I tell you what, I'm gonna give you a man's review too.
The hibiscus juice is really starting to kick in right now. I'm just saying.
We have some really strong hibiscus.
I know. This juice is so good.
Yeah, I just don't know what I'd do. I mean, do you go to the sink and you rinse that out in front of everybody? Do you throw that in like?
I can't even envision this stupid contraption. I'm not. You know what? That's gonna be a big ass thing too.
Yeah.
How much do you pee?
How do you do this discreetly? How big is this thing?
There's just like a little like cup size base, like the base of a cup or a mug, and then it's got a little spout.
Does it have a tube that goes down at the?
I don't think it's a
ground,
tube. No, the ones that I've seen are like it's shaped like an overly enlarged clit, something between a clit and a penis, and it like funnels. It like suction cups and funnels, but it's large enough to like fit over your
it has
like
suction?
mons different. Well, I don't think it's suction-y because like people have like pubic hairs and stuff like that, but it's like it's got like a lip that like extrudes, you know, or like protrudes, and so you can kind of fold it, like put more of a seal. God, why do I know more about this than you guys do?
I was about to ask you that.
About this. So apparently they make cod pieces for women now, right? Okay. On that note, I gotta go.
I do. As a man, I want to try it out. I want to write a review as a man and be like, didn't work at all.
Couldn't get it all in there. It wouldn't fit.
It's trying to like.
I dribbled everywhere.
Right. I was thinking it would go. I'm uncomfortable with the amount of force that I have from my bladder. I was thinking I could build up pressure and then get a stronger stream to impress men in the next stalls. But this piece clearly doesn't work for that. It's 3 stars.
Oh God!
How did we get on this topic? Oh wait, that was me.
Well, Amazon makes you have penis envy.
Yeah. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. Are you guys like fans of Amazon? Do you do this?
Oh yeah,
I'm guilty.
Yeah, so. I know. She says we're guilty because apparently they don't pay like fair wages and they don't give bathroom breaks and stuff.
See, that's why they sell it on Amazon because they require all their employees to have one.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's with your welcome packet. Like, here's some Skittles in case you get hungry because you're not going on lunch.
Bottle
That's not happening.
Here you go.
Yeah. And here's your penis
pee device.
your pee device.
Yeah. Yeah, I would want to work next to the roadie bottles that you pee in while you're like the trucker, you know.
Yeah.
I'd want to work in that section. So you're just like, we were short one this month. What happened? Like, I have no idea. Speaking of, I have to take a pee break. So we're going to take a
All
real
right.
quick break, and we will have one last piece with Lisa if she
I gotta go.
can be with us. She's got to go. Well,
sorry.
that will be probably the end of part 1. So this has been
But I can
Artless
come
Nap.
back.
Please do come back. What are you going to talk about? Oh, I have to ask you a question.
Pick something.
One thing left
Yeah.
before you go. Are you cats or a dog? You have to pick. Doesn't matter if like you really don't like both. Are you a cats or a dog person?
I gotta say, I'm probably a cats person.
Okay, so there's going to be a war to save humanity, and it's between cats and another animal. What's the other animal, and who wins? So here's the deal. So there's cats,
Yeah.
and then there's another animal. They can use their hyper intelligent. They can like figure out how to strap lasers to their heads or like wield swords. Maybe they figure out how to
Yeah.
make a
Sharks with freaking
They get
lasers.
technology
Okay, so
to
you're
hold
saying that
swords and
this
stuff.
animal is gonna save humanity?
No, they have to fight for or against humanity. So they both might want to join up and kill humanity, but the fight is over humanity. So cats initially are on our side. Cats are defending humanity,
Yeah.
and there's another animal, and
Yeah.
it's going to try and destroy us. So what is that animal?
Oh.
Somebody
so what
else-
animal does the cat have to take on?
Yeah,
fight?
to save us, but maybe it ends up turning against us, and they just murder us all. And eat
Yeah,
us.
I was gonna say, because you know what? Much like the LGBT community, the cat community is not a monolith, right?
Right.
Some of those suckers will turn on you in a heartbeat.
Okay, but like, so they're doing this for political reasons, and they'll end up taking over the kingdom from humanity. Who do they initially
Gotcha,
pretend
because
to
they
fight?
know we're gonna take care of them. So
Yeah.
who are they gonna fight?
Yeah,
The dogs.
the dogs. The dogs. You're gonna fight the dogs?
Because the cats think the dogs are dumb. Because you know what? Dogs are toddlers. I love dogs. I love
Yeah.
dogs. But you think about it, dogs are perpetual toddlers.
That's true.
Cats are manipulative narcissists.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
totally.
they're gonna.
Absolutely.
Sorry, the cat's gonna win.
So they fight the
who's gonna
dogs,
win?
and they murder all the dogs, and then they.
Or they don't even have to murder them. They're gonna get them all into this pen and they're like lock the door. They don't even.
The dogs won't even know. They'll be happy. They're just like, we're at
They're
daycare.
gonna- oh, boy,
Daycare.
Here's some turkey leg. Go get
They
it.
say, yeah, the cats.
Gotcha,
You know what? That's what they're gonna. Yes, they're gonna just throw it. They go, oh, look at this stupid dog. Sorry.
So
we
they
got the
trick them
humans
with
to
a pen.
ourselves.
That's where your warfare goes. They manipulate them and put them in a pen and lock it up, and they're done with it.
Yes, no bloodshed.
No bloodshed.
No
I like
bloodshed.
it. I like it. Well, thank you so
You're
much,
so
Lisa.
liberal.
Bernie Sanders is mainstream in my hometown.
So every time somebody says Bernie Sanders, my brain, it's like, oh, they're talking about me.
Aww.
And then I realize, oh, wait, they're saying Bernie. Okay, so I'm
Are you admitting to be a narcissist?
maybe a little bit. I mean, it's really about me, let's be clear.
Well, speaking of that, we will bring Brande Sanders back in just a minute for part
Yeah.
2. But we've got to let Lisa. Oh my God!
Get it off!
It's a
It's a
caterpillar.
caterpillar. It's not gonna hurt you. A caterpillar just fell onto Brande.
That's awesome.
I have
Can
no
you
idea
edit that
why.
out?
Oh no, don't.
That was the wussiest fucking scream I've ever heard in my life.
I'm certainly gonna have to adjust the volume level.
Just do that. What's the scream that, like, the Wilhelm scream? Is that what it is?
Is that like the most famous scream?
Yeah.
The one that's used in all the movies
Yeah,
and stuff
do
like
that
that?
one.
We're going to have to link that down
Yeah.
in the bottom as well. We're going to get you to your wedding.
Positions.
So, Lisa Delcol,
Yeah. Hey.
will you please come back to Artless
I
Nap?
would love to. Yeah. This was
Excellent.
fun.
All right. Well, until this next episode in a couple minutes, thanks for listening to Artless Nap.
Okay. That was very enjoyable.